There really is a Mayberry.
Yes, and it's been here hundreds of years. He looked at me and he said, Pam, I'm so proud of you. He said, you've turned the lights back on in Mayberry. And I've cried about it ever since.
Hello everyone, it's John Moore with the Appalachian Channel, and I'm in Mayberry, Virginia, and yes, there is a real Mayberry, and this is the Mayberry Trading Post. We believe this is where Andy Griffith came up with the name of Mayberry in the show because his grandparents lived right behind the store. And we're here today with the new owner, Pam Frazier, and her daughter, Misty. They just recently took over the store and been operating it. This is their first full year, and we're excited to be here. So we're at the real Mayberry, and we're gonna go inside and check out this Mayberry Trading Post and see all the history, and let Pam and Misty tell us about different things going on here and that's been going on over the past 100 and something years here. All right, you ready to go in?
Let's go.
Let's go. So it looks like you've done a little bit of painting since the original owner had it.
A little bit of painting and a whole lot of other work.
Yeah.
Remodeling and stuff.
I think I started talking to you last fall about the store, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, I bought it in September.
And you got it from a family member?
I did.
How long had they owned it before that?
Well, Coyley and Dale had owned it for years, but then they had sold it about 2 years prior to me buying it to another family member. And he was going to come in and fix it up, and he passed away before he could do it. And so his widow decided she needed to sell it. And so I bought it in September because I wanted it to stay in the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the history all the way back to 1892. We was talking about that earlier, about there's even a store before this store. Right,
yeah. The Scotts brothers, well, the first store was built by the Bowers, Mr. Bowers, and he had built a little store out here, and then the Scotts brothers came in, and that was in the late 1700s. And they bought that little trading store over. It was set right beside this store. And they run that for several years because this was a thriving community, and they needed to be able to trade and have supplies brought in. And then it became too small. And so in 1892, the Scotts brothers built this store. It was a bigger store, and they used the old store as a feed and seed. And eventually it got big enough that they had to, and the old store was wearing down, and they had to tear the old store down. And they built a new feed and seed section to the right of this store, and continued to run this one, the Scotts brothers did, until about 1936, somewhere in that range. And then the Yates family came in and bought it. And they have run it, so it's a family member of the Yates have run it ever since.
Okay. And what did you think about it when your mom said she was wanting to buy the place? What was your first reaction?
I was stoked.
Oh, you was excited about it?
Yeah, we had just randomly stopped in here. We were going to go to Mom's family cemetery up, and we just came in here to just trade out cars so she could drive me up there. And there was a for sale sign out front, and Mom and my husband and I were talking, and she was like, "What do you think if I bought it? Would you help me run it?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I would. I can't think of anything I'd rather do."
Right. We knew, I knew I couldn't do it on my own, and so I asked her. I said, "If you've got my back, we're in on this." And my husband and I had done restoration and remodeling for 30 years, so we knew we could fix it. All the problems that we knew we had that part, but neither one of us had ever done retail on this level. We've worked in retail before, but not on owning the business. And so I asked her, I said, "If you've got my back, I'm going to buy it." And so that was in August. I bought it in September, and we started the work on it in November.
Yeah, I saw some pictures that you would post every now and then of the remodeling. So
yeah.
So let's walk down through here and just look at some of the stuff that you sell. It looks like you got a variety of candy and.
Yeah, I really did kind of relive my childhood on a lot of this. When I was a young girl, I came into the store a lot, getting candy or ice cream or drinks. And it's funny to watch people's faces when they come in and they'll see things like the Mary Janes or the Chica Sticks or even the little powdered candy here, fruits. And they'll just remember their childhood and they're like, oh, I had that. And I was like, yeah, this is all my childhood on one counter right here. And of course, the Trading Post has always carried canned goods of different kinds, jams, jellies, pickles, chow chows, honeys, and stuff like that. So we had to have that. We try to do as much local as we can. We have Bootleg Barbecue in here. They're from over in Floyd. It's the most amazing barbecue. And then, of course, back to our snacks, moon pies. You got to have RC Colas and moon pies if you own an old Trading Post store. So we have the moon pies and RC Colas. And then we start into our local artists and craftsmen. I tell everybody we sell everything from beanie weenies to fine art. We have some great artists that put their pieces here on consignment. And we have a local baker that provides our breads and our cookies and stuff like that. Plenty of baskets.
Some of this stuff here made locally, maybe?
Yeah. All of this pottery, the wood, that pottery, this woodwork over here, a lot of the stuff on the sides is all made local. We have a local basket maker there. We try to get just as much local. We have our book section is local authors. We have a few kids books. It's not local, but you got to have something for the kids too. Aaron Mac Alexander is probably our favorite author, or at least for me he is, because he's family and he writes about Mayberry and all of we have a book called This Old Store that Aaron wrote about the store, the history.
This one right here?
Yes.
So that's the thing that amazed me when I got here, because I thought this store was just named after the show Mayberry, and
just the opposite.
Just the opposite.
Right.
Nothing solid in proof, but people feel that.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, everybody did want to associate Mt Airy with Mayberry because Andy Griffith was born there, and that's a fair enough thing. But the thing is, his grandparents had a place right behind the store here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
they lived here.
They lived here, and his mother was born in Patrick County.
How about that?
And then she married the Griffith, and they moved to Mt Airy. Well, Andy was just like any other child. You go to spend time with your grandmother during the summer and stuff like that, and he would come down here and get his little candy and stuff like that. And there's questions as he never would confirm that this was the Mayberry of the show, but he was also a very private man. He also wouldn't tell people exactly where his grandparents lived for privacy reasons. He didn't want them, when they were still living, going in on his family.
Okay.
And so,
So he didn't want to expose where the name of the town, because everybody would have kind of, during the height of the show, they would have showed up.
They would have showed up, and from my understanding, he was a very private man. But this store, Mayberry, has been here since the late 1700s. Mayberry, the show, didn't come around until your 1950s, 1960s, so it's easy enough to do that math.
So we're about an hour from
about 30 minutes
from Mt Airy.
From Mt Airy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just right down off the edge of the mountain here.
So I know that there's a lot of people that come to Mt Airy. So if they want to see the real Mayberry, they just need to drive north a little ways, don't they?
Right, and they do. We have a partnership almost between Mt Airy and us. They give the tours down there, and you can ride in the deputy car, and they'll tell you, now that you've done all of this and seen all of this, now you need to go up to the Mayberry Trading Post and see that part and that connection to the movie.
Well, I think you got a room back here that's set up like a little museum.
I do.
Let's look at that there for a minute, and you've got some pictures and different things here.
Yeah, when I bought the store, there was a lot of pictures. I still have so many more pictures to put up, but there was a lot of pictures of different proprietors of the store, different visitors in the store, different activities here at the store, and I thought they were worth preserving. So I made the history room here, and I still am putting up old photos, but people are also bringing me new photos of their visits to the store now, and I'm starting to put them up also.
So we see we talked about, I think this earlier when I got here, about this was a post office
It was.
originally. Up to what year did the post office run out of here?
It was here until 1922.
1922. So it was the Mayberry address or zip code at that time.
Right. And you, then in 1922, the government consolidated Mayberry and Medicine because it just wasn't big enough to carry two post offices. And so in 1922, it became Medicine, but we still lovingly, even though we're very proud to be from Medicine, we still lovingly remember Mayberry.
Yes.
You know, and we still call it Mayberry. And even people in the community, they will say, I live in the Mayberry section of Medicine, or I own a store in the Mayberry section of Medicine, or I go to church in the Mayberry section.
So we see right here behind us is the Blue Ridge Parkway, is that right? And so that started back in what?
1930, well, about 38 is when it really got opened. It was like from 34 to 37 they were really working on it, and by 1938 it had opened.
And that started causing a little bit of tourism instead of just local economy.
Exactly,
I guess.
yeah, and by that time, you know, they were just really struggling through the Great Depression, and business had slacked off. The main roads from Danville and all had started coming through, and you know, it was starting to die down. Mayberry's business was dying down, and so when the Parkway came through, and you had a whole different clientele. It wasn't just workers; it was the tourists coming through. That's what was really saved Mayberry Trading Post. I mean, there's always some hard feelings from some of the people that had to give up their land for the Parkway, but then there was some good that came from it too. It did save this story, at least anyway.
You said your mom sold some stuff as a kid?
She did. When her and her brother, well, she's got 3 brothers, but the 2 were quite younger, but they would pick chica pins. And, which is
tell us what that is.
Yeah, because you didn't know, did you? They're little teeny nuts, a lot like chestnuts, just really a smaller version of a chestnut. And everybody around here really loves them. And so they would pick chinka pins, and they would come down and stand on the Parkway and sell it to the tourists coming through. You can get their little bit of money and come over here and buy their candy from Uncle Coy. Or they would pick blackberries and come down here and trade with Uncle Coy for some candy or whatever the family needed.
So, yeah, let's walk back in the main part of the store here and tell us a little bit about you. Was talking about you as a kid, you'd come by here on the bus.
I did. I lived just up the road at an intersection. There was a little house, and the bus driver would, each week, he would tell us that whatever day he was stopping at the store for us, so we could get a quarter for ice cream or a soda or something like that. And sometimes Mama had a quarter to give us, but even then, Mr. Cochran, if a child didn't have a quarter, he would make sure each child had a quarter, and we would come in here, we would buy our ice cream and our drinks, and that was just a really good childhood memory for me, was getting to come to Uncle Coy's store and get my little piece of candy too.
So you said you as a kid you thought you'd like to work here one day.
Oh, I knew I wanted to work here. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I thought I just wanted to sit in there with Miss Addie and work in this store. I never thought that I would actually get to, but I couldn't figure out any reason why I wouldn't. But then as I grew older and I moved away and I did all my traveling and stuff, it still was a place that I wanted. And so when I saw the for sale sign, it was just kind of a fate thing.
Did your heart start beating real fast?
Quite fast. Because I really thought next year or this coming year that I would be retiring, doing an early retirement. I had no intentions of owning a business or starting a new career. I was okay, and I just wanted to ride off into the sunset. And, but then this came up, and I just really felt like that it needed to stay in the family because I thought somebody else might tear it down, or they might turn it into something that was no longer the Mayberry Trading Post. And this place is too historical. There's too many wonderful stories that I don't mind telling people when they come to visit. I will talk your ear off about my store. And it needed to be preserved, and that was why we fixed it up with the hopes that it'll be here another 130 years. It'll be some of my descendants that obviously won't be me, but at least it'll still be standing.
I came across this store. I think I found it actually searching a little bit about Mt Airy, but did they film a little scene out of the movie called The Mayberry Man?
They did. It's called The Mayberry Man, and right now I think the offer's still going on. If you have Amazon Prime, you can go on and watch The Mayberry Man free of charge. And it does, about halfway through, the main character in frustration has to get away, and you see him going past Mayberry's Mill, and then the next scene is him losing control of his car, and he's right out in front of the Mayberry Trading Post. And then he comes in, and there's this wise old man behind the counter, and he's getting guidance and life conversations going, and he leaves, and he says at the end of the movie, that was the turning point for him in his life, was to be a better person, was his visit to Mayberry. And they did follow up with that with saying, what are you talking about? Mayberry store has been closed for like 10 years and it's been condemned, which kind of made my heart sink. I'm thinking, we're not closed, we're not condemned, But yeah, it did have a little cameo shot in it.
Do you know what it's based on, that fellow that you're talking about that came through here, just his life? It's not based on Andy Griffith or nothing?
No. It was more based on just the feelings you get and that time frame. We all have Mayberry wishes.
Like a Mayberry state of mind.
A Mayberry state of mind. We all want that kind of life for ourselves. And he was on a fast track, and he had gotten in some trouble and ended up being sentenced to a week at Mayberry days. And so he's down there with all these method actors, these impersonators there was Floyd the Barber and Barney and all of them. And he just needed to get his life focused, and his trip to Mayberry helped him get there.
So have you had people come in that's watched the movie?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why, and a lot of them will come in and say, how long were you closed? And I'm like, yeah, we weren't.
The store, I asked you that too. I thought the store had been closed also, right. Maybe from the clip I saw. Yeah. So the store's never actually closed down.
It did one time in the, I want to say 1930s or somewhere, might have even been, 1960s it closed down for a few years. And it was during that transition that the Yates brothers bought the store from the Scotts brothers. But no, since that time, once the Yates brothers bought it, it has never closed.
I noticed there's an upstairs. Did some of the proprietors at one time live upstairs?
No.
Nobody ever lived
It was for the longest time, it was storage for the chestnuts and then corn and other products and stuff that the mountain produced. And then there was a time that it was a dance hall, and they would hold dance up there, and actually Bill and Charlie Monroe played here.
Oh.
And they would have regular music and stuff like that. And then there was one night that they were up there dancing and getting a little rowdy, and one man's foot come through the floor right there. And so I think they decided we might need to tone that down a little bit. So there's no dances up there. And people have asked me if I was going to open that up either enlarge the store up there or do something like that. And part of me really wants to, but then part of me thinks of that liability up there, you know. So we'll see. That'll be down the road.
So what's one of some of your best sellers here at the store as people come
Well,
through?
definitely our T-shirts.
The T-shirts. And thank you for the T-shirts. Y'all
You're
gave me a
quite
T-shirt.
welcome.
And right here's the one like I got, and it's awesome T-shirt. I love the Gulf sign on it right there. So they used to sell gas here at one time, and we were talking about that. And like most of the country stores eventually quit selling because they had to upgrade their tanks, and it was more expensive than they were going to make from the gas, so it wasn't worth it.
Right. So our T-shirts are definitely a #1 seller. Our Foxfire books, well, all of our local books, but we're one of the few places that have the complete set of the Foxfire books.
Oh, okay, I see
that
them.
you can come in and you can buy them one at a time if you want to, or we'll make you a deal on the complete set.
Okay, those are all Appalachian stories.
Exactly. Books are just full of knowledge of how people did things to survive and how you can still do things. I mean, there is several sections just on quilting, which I'm a quilter, and so I find them interesting and fascinating. There's apple butter making. There's even a chapter or several on moonshine making, you know, if you want to risk that at this time. So
you got a lot of other books. We noticed you got this one right here that we're talking about, This Old Store.
Yeah, that's written by Aaron Mack Alexander about the store. He is a family member that documents a lot of history for us. The last one, Leaving Mayberry, that was when he felt like that the store was, and Mayberry itself, it was just pretty much dying down, and he was concerned that the store building would, you know, eventually just fall. So that was one. And but we try to encourage all local authors to bring their books in, and we have some of them that people are familiar with. The Man Who Moved the Mountain, who built it's about Bob Childress, who built all the churches locally. Orlean Puckett, another relative, believe it or not. The mountain midwife who delivered most of the babies in this area, and she's got her cabin out on the parkway to honor her, and you can visit out there and see that. So
you've got the movie up here.
We do. We have the
Mayberry Man movie, and I think Misty said those are about $20 a piece.
Yeah,
and
yes.
So we've got several books. So if anybody wanted to order one, Misty might could get it shipped to them.
Absolutely, glad to do it.
And we were looking at the T-shirts there a minute ago. Let's look at them again. Y'all gave me one. I came in, saw this, and I really absolutely just loved this drawing. Is this a drawing that somebody's done?
It is. Yeah.
And it's got the old Gulf sign, and you have those for sale. So you could probably, Misty might could ship a few things, and that way they can say they got them directly from the Mayberry Trading Post.
Absolutely.
Not ordering something on Amazon, you know. So we're going to go outside just a second and talk about the outside for a minute. You was talking about I asked you about the lean in the building, and you said you had to do some stuff to take care of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let's go here and look at it just now. I thought I really liked that, believe it or not. It's like, that's really cool. You can see it right here in the doors as we go out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Even when we fixed it, there was only so much we could do. So we had to make sure that the doors and the windows, you know, we were trying to fit a trapezoid in a square hole, or a square door into a trapezoid at that point. But we got it, and it worked. And we just decided to go with the lean on it.
That gives it character, don't it?
Well, if nothing else, this building has character.
So this is Mayberry Church Road?
Mayberry Church Road.
Okay. And let me step back here just a little bit. We can see the signs a lot better. The sun's coming around today, this evening now. So built in 1892 Mayberry Trading Post. And so we see this lean a little bit. You say you had to do some work to that?
We did, you know, and everybody asks about the lean, and the lady that ran the store before me, she said, well, if you were 130 years old, wouldn't you lean too? And I'm thinking, I'm half that and I lean. But yeah, it had started to lean that way. When the state came through and redid the road, because the parking lot used to be about 6 feet out. And when they redid the road, it just got narrower. But they also put a culvert in, and it ran and stopped under the store. So all the water was draining under the store right here and rotting out the foundation. So when we bought it, we came in and redid the foundation, dug all that out, ran the culvert on out to the back of the building to keep the water from out there. And then we reinforced all of this so it can't lean anymore. It can't go anywhere. If it wants to still lean, it's going to have to go the other direction. So maybe in another 130 years, it'll straighten itself up. Who knows?
I see you got some picnic areas out here to...
Yeah, we have music on a regular basis. We invite people to just bring their guitars. It's not always a formal band. It's just individual people that play locally or just sit at their own home and play. And we tell them, just bring your guitar out here, sit up under the porch, and people can come out here. They can get them a snack from the store, a soda, ice cream, and sit and listen to the music or play cornhole. We have cornhole here, and we have horseshoes. And we're getting ready to have the blacksmith shop opened up, and you'll be able to see blacksmith demonstrations. And there's always, usually if I'm here, there's quilting demonstrations, because if it's slow, I'm quilting. And then we will be doing apple butter and hopefully molasses making here also this year.
Are you closing down this for the winter like a lot of places do around here?
Well, we're hoping we don't have to. We're at least trying to make it to the first of the year, because I am heart set on Christmas in Mayberry.
Christmas in Mayberry.
I feel like that would be a fun thing for, even if it's locals, because I understand a lot of people will not be able to have access to the store, that I would enjoy having the Christmas in Mayberry and all that entails.
Right. So is this a hitching post for horses?
It is. Yeah. We now have an Amish contingency Amish families moving in, so it's perfect for them. But it's always been here for even before we had the Amish come in. Before we had cars coming into this area, we had horse buggies, and that hitching post has been here.
I see another structure over here. Is this part of your property too?
It is. That was what, once the old feeding seed got tore down, they built that, and it was the original, the new feeding seed.
Okay.
And it's storage and that kind of stuff.
So yeah, that's neat. It's a bigger store when you come outside and look at it on the back side here.
It is really a big store, and we're taking it, just piece. It's like trying to eat an elephant. You just take one bite at a time and try to fix it and try to do it, and we finally got the restrooms fixed to where you can get in them, because I'm a big person, and then I wanted them more handicap accessible. So we got that part done, but now we're getting ready to fix the side and the back of the store, and we're going to build a porch on, so people will have another place to sit and just relax. A lot of the times we've had kids out there in the field over there flying kites, and their parents sitting here eating snacks and just enjoying the music and the day.
I see our dog down there taking a break.
Yeah.
Angel, she's chewing on something. So yeah, this is really neat to find out there really is a Mayberry.
Yes, and it's been here hundreds of years.
Now you was talking about the author of the book in there that talking to you about how you turned the lights back on in Mayberry.
Yeah, when Aaron came in, the one that wrote the last one, Leaving Mayberry, there's a little line below that says turn the lights out. And he also wrote the other books about the store, and he came in right before grand opening. I done a little sneak peek for some of the local businesses, and for Aaron, really, because he's kind of the patriarch of the family. He's the oldest member still living. And he came through the store, and he was walking through, and he was just really silent, looking around. All he kept saying was, "Oh Lord, oh Lord." And that can mean many things around here. It's either a good "oh Lord" or it's a bad "oh Lord." And he kept on, and he came out of the history room, and he's walking up, and he let out another "oh Lord." And I said, "Aaron, you need to stop." I said, "I need something more than "oh Lord." I said, "You're giving me anxiety here." He looked at me, and he said, "Pam, I'm so proud of you." He said, you've turned the lights back on in Mayberry. And I've cried about it ever since. So it was a special thing from him, special gift.
Well, Pam, it's been a great visit with you today, and
Thank
I
you.
really want to see other people come and experience the real Mayberry in your store here. So we always try to find other places and tell people of other places they can go, which Mt Airy is just down the road.
30 minutes.
30 minutes, and so that gets a lot of people coming there, and we're going to be doing some videos upcoming soon there. So, but right here in Meadows of Dan, which is your address now, there's things here for people to see and do. Misty looked some things up and wrote some things down and was talking about them earlier. What all can they do right here in the local area?
Well, the most widely known place is Mayberry Mill. It's a historic grist mill just down the road on the Parkway, and they have a restaurant with the best pancakes you can find anywhere. So I always recommend that to people who come through here visiting. In Meadows of Dan proper, there's Poor Farmers Market. It's an old-fashioned general store. They have a really good deli, so you can sit on the porch and have a sandwich or some ice cream and just watch the world go by. There's also Poppy's. Leslie Sheeler has that store there, and it is a locally produced fiber and yarn. She also has alpaca gifts and really a sweet little gift shop there. And
Concord.
there's Concord Corner Store and Primitive Coffee. They have handmade pastries and really nice coffees and things like that out there. And then if people want to stay in this area, there are a lot of small Airbnbs, little places where people can rent cabins and houses and just kind of get a feel for what it feels like to live here. And friends of ours, Christy and Brandon, also have Stargazer Park, where you can rent a vintage RV and camp out with all of your friends, and they're out in the beautiful Fork Mountain, I think, and you can see the stars and
Great
play
place.
music, and
Yeah, they have a big pavilion where you can play. They play music, and you get to stay in like the old vintage Airstreams, and they've really fixed them up really nice. So it's a good place.
And you got the park, the Blue Ridge Parkway to drive on too.
And all of that, all of the views and everything.
So I'm not real familiar with the Blue Ridge Parkway. How far does it go, or do you know right off how many miles it runs and what states?
it goes through North Carolina and Virginia.
Yeah, and Tennessee parts of it.
Right.
But it starts Smoky Mountains down there, which is like another part of the Appalachian Mountains, and then it comes up, and then it goes on up past Roanoke and all, and then it turns into the Skyline Drive. Everybody thinks that the Blue Ridge Parkway and the Skyline Drive is the same thing. It's not, but it's just it's an extension, a separate part though.
Okay. So the one thing I noticed right here in Meadows of Dan when we're getting off was there's not a lot of traffic. If you want to come, you want to come to a quiet place to not be worrying about trying to find a place to park or traffic and red lights. Are there many red lights in the area here?
In Meadows of Dan,
Yeah. Just
we don't have a stoplight in Meadows of Dan.
no
There might
red.
be 2 or 3 in Stewart,
Yeah,
but that's
Yes,
the nearest
yes.
one.
yeah,
So-
we don't have stoplights up here. We don't, none of that.
Well, we really appreciate you ladies doing what you're doing and
Thank
keeping history alive, and we appreciate you letting us come by and document it and show it to the world.
Glad to have you.
We'll hope to see you again another time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.